Restorative yoga, a beautiful practice that's going to help us. It's actually a really great balance to what we did this morning. So this morning we were moving, we were uplifting, we were creating that sense of you know, launching ourselves into the day. Now we have an opportunity to use a different form of yoga to slow down, to wind down, to get very contemplative and maybe ready for our little chat afterwards, as well as to get us ready for the end of the day and for going to sleep. We're going to start in a posture called yin fish. Those of you, it's probably the one that you see most in a lot of yoga classes. You'll see this. I'm going to have Paul lie down on his back. Actually, come on back up. I'm going to really try hard to stay out of the way, and so you can see. There. Face that side. Okay. Sit up for just a second, hon. So in yin fish, this is a gentle back bending asana. There's a couple of ways that we can do it. I am going to suggest that if you have 2 blocks, you use your 2 blocks. If not, we're going to use regular bed pillows. I'm going to show you both variations. Starting with the blocks, you'll take one going this way, and you're going to place it right in between your scapula. So Paul, come on down now. Yep, keep on coming down. And then the other one, you're going to take to the medium size height. And actually with Paul, I might need it up high. Go ahead, keep on going down. Does that feel okay?
Yeah.
Does the blocks that I have are cork blocks, so do those feel comfortable for you?
Oh yeah.
Do they? No, they don't? Are you sure?
Yeah, but that's all right.
Okay, because if they don't feel comfortable, we're going to do pillows instead.
No, these are better. The pillows wouldn't be enough.
Enough for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other thing you can do, if you don't have blocks, you're going to take 2 pillows, and I'm not going to have Paul move because he's nice and cozy now, but you would take your 2 pillows, stack them one on top of the other. You would bring your bum right down on the ground and then lie your back over the pillows, okay? So one way or the other, wiggle yourself in. You'll bring your arms out to a T and turn them so that they're palm face up. Again, we want to have this sense of opening through the heart space. Okay. Now, with your feet, you're going to take the soles of your feet to the ground. And I'm going to give you 2 variations to try. The first one is a little more gentle. You're going to take your feet wide on your mat. I got to tell my model to stop anticipating what I'm saying, okay? And then drop your knees together and drop your knees towards one another. And that doesn't feel good for Paul, so he's not going to do it. But for some of you, that might feel really good. The other variation is to take your feet together and to drop your knees wide. Now, if you're dropping your knees wide, you can see that Paul's legs are floating up a little bit. So I'm going to support him with my pillows, one on either side. How's that feel? Everything feels good. So he's going to chill out. And so are you. Take another minute, guys. So in our restorative postures, I was going to call them yin postures. So it's a kind of hybrid of yin yoga. In our yin postures, we're going to hold each asana for about 5 minutes. So as you're here, you'll start to take some long, deep breaths. Smoothing out the inhale and smoothing out the exhale. Notice if there's any areas of roughness within your breath. And take your time to see if you can refine the breath. The belly softly lifts and lowers. Your chest will remain relatively still. And you relax into it. The body opening, melting. Body softening. Allowing every exhale to become a chance to sink just a little bit deeper. Now, our restorative practice gives us not only a chance to open our body and release the body, but it's a wonderful opportunity to find contemplation. I'm going to offer you some quotes from two very different sources. The first being Rumi, who is a, oh geez, I think he's first century Sufi mystic. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all barriers within yourself that you have built against it. A few breaths. And let yourself melt. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all barriers within yourself that you have built against it. We'll be here for 2 more minutes. As we transition from one asana to the other, if you can hang on to that heavy gaze, kind of that in between state, please try to do that. If you can't, that's fine. But what I'll have you do now is wiggle your fingers and your toes. And you'll take your hands, if you have your legs out in Baddha Konasana, you'll take your hands behind your thighs. So if their legs are out in butterfly, you'll take your thighs and help your knees together. The next position we're going to come into is a seated asana. So I'm going to have you come up to sit. If you have a small blanket or a small pillow, go ahead and sit on it. Okay. Now this is going to be a seated variation of Paschimottanasana, forward fold. So bring your legs out nice and straight. And I'm going to have you bend your knees up. So Paul is fairly flexible in through his hip flexors. If I personally were doing this, I would probably stack 2 pillows up. He might just need one. So I'm going to just scoot one underneath. Okay. And then I'm going to put one on his lap. And I'm actually going to get these 2 little guys too. You don't have, so just grab your props, whatever you have. That comes up. And even one, you don't need another one. There you go. He's just going to hang. So if you can see, he's kind of melting into this pile of blankets. How does that feel?
Good.
Good. Okay. So he says good. So we want to make sure that we feel. He says, can you rub my shoulders a little bit? And I said, no, just go ahead, model, just do your thing. Let yourself relax here. Good. And I'll invite you again to turn your awareness to your breath. Notice how it feels different now, right? As we flex, as we compress, the belly is going to be making contact with the pillows. And there might be a sense that you're getting a little massage in through your internal organs. Do let your neck be nice and soft. Just really let go. Good. I hope you're all finding it. And so the breath comes in and the breath leaves. Turning inward. So whenever we have our bodies in this type of forward folding position, it really helps to wind the energy down. And this is a great one for end of day. And again from Rumi, in your light, I learned how to love. In your beauty, how to make poems. You dance inside my chest where no one sees you, but sometimes I do. And that sight becomes this art. Breathing it in. And again, to contemplate. In your light, I learn how to love. In your beauty, how to make poems. You dance inside my chest where no one sees you, but sometimes I do. And that sight becomes this art. Just another minute here. And you might notice that as we hold just a little bit longer, there might start to be a little bit of discomfort. Do recognize if it's that good kind of discomfort or if you feel like you need to wiggle out a little early. Full breath. Okay. And we are very slowly going to start to wind back up. And I know it's like, oh, I just got here. I just feel like I set up and now you're making me move again. So come on up. We're going to do another asana from a seated position. What I'm going to have you do, Paul, is come into deer pose. Do you know that one? Let's start with your legs, this guy in front, whatever one that is. That's your right leg in front. I'm actually going to have you turn so you're facing the camera. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, excellent. So we're going to do a reclining deer pose, and this will help get, it's a little bit of a twist and a little bit into the side body. 2 bed pillows will do it. So you can see Paul has his left shin parallel to the long side of the mat here, and then his right shin parallel to the short side of the mat. So he's making kind of a box shape with his legs. I'm hoping you can see that. Now, 2 pillows come against the left hip, and he's simply gonna, yep, lie on down. Turn your chest so your chest is, yeah, so it's almost like a sleeping pigeon. Does that make sense to you? Okay. And do you feel like you have enough support for your head there? Do you feel like you'd like to be up a little bit higher, or you feel okay? That's a good, okay. So I'm hoping you can see him. I'm gonna scoot this way so you can a little bit better. He's letting his head hang. He's finding probably a little bit of stretch in your hip. Yes, Paul? A little bit in the hip, a little bit in the hip, some in the side body, and definitely a little bit of a twist too. So the chest is lying right down on the pillows, okay? Good. So let yourself wiggle in, find it. We're gonna find this on 2 sides, so do take your time and just recognize the position you're in. Good, and relax. So I invite you to, every time we move, to find the unique qualities that now happen within the breath as the body shapes the breath shapes the body. And we continue with that long, slow, deep breath. If you can take it down into your abdomen, please do so. Good. Yeah, so Paul is taking some nice big breaths, and I hope you are too. And again, we'll be here for about 4 more minutes. And here's some more Rumi to contemplate. And I'm realizing that I gave you a really wonky date. Rumi lived in the 12th century, 1200s. Did I? Oh. Goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes, because for those who love with their heart and their soul, there is no such thing as separation. And again, the contemplation. Goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes, because for those who love with their heart and their soul, there is no such thing as separation. You might notice that as you begin to relax more and more, your breath might become more shallow, and that's okay. Sometimes when we drop very deeply into a meditative state, we can barely feel the breath, and that's just because our body is becoming more efficient. So now let's invite the breath back in longer, and we're going to come on up and find the exact same pose on the other side. So you might want to bring your legs out in front of you. Do you feel like your legs need a shake, or you feel like you can come right to the other side?
Yeah, I'm gonna go right over.
Okay, yeah. So do what you have to. Paul needs a little side before he goes over. And, oh, okay. So he's going to just leave the pillows where they were and show you his hind side. Okay. Excellent. So again, we have our legs, and I'll see if you can see me, in kind of a box-like shape. And pillows to the hip that the leg is, the front leg, the hip on the front leg. and then leaning over and taking your chest as best as you can down to your pillows. Okay. And you'll notice that this side will feel very different than the other, so let yourself settle in. It's kind of really interesting when we start to study ourselves and we study what's happening in the physical body as well as the energetic emotional body. And the differences between the sides is something that I always go, wow, how can I be so different? And so reestablish your breath. Settle yourself in, and again, you notice in your body where you're feeling this. And this is love, to fly towards a secret sky, to cause 100 veils to fall each moment. First, let go of life. Finally, to take a step without feet. Are you asleep? In our contemplation, one more time. This is love, to fly toward a secret sky, to cause 100 veils to fall each moment. First, to let go of life. Finally, to take a step without feet. Okay, guys, so one more breath here, or maybe two. From here, we're going to move towards a restorative variation of child's pose. So Paul, go ahead and press up. Okay, and then come on over to hands, knees. And you'll bring your big toes to touch and take your knees out wide. Okay. Now you're going to take your pillows and bring them underneath your chest. Take two of them if you can, one on top of the other. You want to snuggle them in close. And knees out wide enough so that you feel a little bit happening in through your hips. How does that feel to you? Okay. And Paul is kind of resting on his elbows. You can take your hands out a little bit further, especially if you have bigger pillows. Paul, I might have you stack your fists one on top of the other and then bring your forehead right down to the center of your fists. How does that feel? Is that good? Would you rather have a block, do you think, or does that feel pretty good for you? Okay. You okay? Okay. So this is another lovely inward turning asana. And again, I'm going to invite you to notice the unique qualities that happen within the breath as you now come into supported balasana, or supported child's pose. If you're the kind of person that you're like, no way is this happening for my knees, you can lie out long instead and just bring a pillow underneath your chest and rest. But if this is okay, again, you're going to recognize, how does it feel when I breathe long and deep? Notice if you can breathe deep into your belly. And just when we were like in the other forward fold, you will feel a compression of the internal organs. You might feel a fullness in your low back. And this is a beautiful one for a child's pose. You were born with potential. You were born with goodness and trust. You were born with ideals and dreams. You were born with greatness. You were born with wings. You are not meant to crawl, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly. A variation in this asana is to turn your head to one side or the other. And if you have that, I'm going to rest this way with the cheek turned to one side for about a minute, and then we'll turn the other way. So if your cheek is turned, go ahead and turn to the other side, please. You were born with potential. You were born with goodness and trust. You were born with ideals and dreams. You were born with greatness. You were born with wings. You are not meant to crawl, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly. And let's say 2 more breaths here before we start wiggling out. Okay, so when you're ready, you'll prop yourself back up to hands, knees. You'll get rid of your bolsters or your pillows and make your way down onto your back, please. I'm going to scoot this way, hoping that you can have a better view. But we're going to come into, we have 2 more asanas. The first is going to be a restorative variation of bridge pose. So for Paul, head's going to be right on the ground. I do have blocks, so I'm going to use a block for him. You can use a pillow or you can use a rolled up towel. What I'm going to have you do is take the soles of your feet to the ground. Okay. And walk your feet in just a little bit further. So you're going to walk your feet towards your hips. Now, yeah, you're going to lift up your hips and put a block or a blanket or a pillow right underneath your sacrum. Okay, if you have a block, you're going to let yourself rest on it for a moment. And then ask yourself, do you feel like you could come a little bit higher? Do you feel like, and Paul looks like he feels like he needs a little something underneath his head too. So I'm going to get that for him. I think his man bun is giving him problems. How's that feel there? So he's got a nice little neck roll underneath there too. Now, again, if you have a block, you can keep it on the low height or you can flip it. If you're flexible in the back and you're like, oh, I think I'd like a little bit more, you can flip it so it's on the medium height. I don't think I would go up to the high height unless you're super tall, but for us, I call myself medium, short to medium sized person. Usually low or medium is good for me. Now, the other thing that you can do here, and I'm going to have you test it out and decide which way you like better. You can keep your feet just like this, or try extending your feet down to the bottom of your mat. Okay, and just kind of letting your legs flop to the outside. How does that feel? You like that one? Okay. Try turning your palms to face up too. How does that feel? Fine. Okay. Looks good. And here you go, a place to chill. And breathe deep. So I hear the belly has more freedom. In general, yes. Yeah, the belly definitely has more freedom in this position. And we have our hearts open in this position. And notice the difference. How does this feel? So for our next few contemplations, and our contemplation at the end of the day, actually, I'm going to turn to Thich Nhat Hanh, who is still alive. and a wonderful, he's a Vietnamese, he was an activist in the Vietnam War, and he's a Buddhist monk and just has, is just a peaceful warrior. He's an amazing man. So here is first from him. We have to walk in a way that only print peace and serenity on the earth. Walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet. We have to walk in a way that we only print peace and serenity on the earth. Walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet. Okay, you guys, about another minute here. You doing okay? Okay, so why don't we go ahead? Our transition from here to the next, we're going to come into a supported variation of Shavasana with literally some feet up. So it's not going to be too big of a move. You'll get rid of your block underneath your sacrum. And then what I'd love for you to do is to find as many pillows as you can for right underneath your feet. So take your feet up. Other one too, please. He's getting really lazy. Yeah. And maybe even a little bit more. I'm going to see if I can stack him just a little bit higher. Good. How's that feel? Delicious, he says. Okay. Now, I wish I had one more for you. What I would love you guys to do is if you do have a little blanket, cover yourself. And I'm going to put just a little towel on Paul's belly to try to give it a little bit of, you know what, actually, lift this up. I'm going to switch out. You're going to put, there we go. So that's still high, not okay. And then this is going to come to your belly. A little weight on the belly.
Okay.
Does that feel good?
Yeah.
Okay. If it's too much weight, you let me know.
No.
Okay. Wiggle in. If you don't have something to rest on your belly, so right now for Paul, I have my little meditation cushion on him as well as a little blanket. If you don't have anything, rest your hands on your belly instead. Okay. Good. And again, as we've shifted into this new organization of our body, we check it out. How is it feeling? How's it feeling on a physical level? How is it feeling to you energetically? Is your breath flowing? And do take a moment to smooth out the breath again. And then I'll invite you to release any patterning of your breath and simply follow the breath with your mind's eye as you allow your body to become totally relaxed. One last contemplation for you here. The most precious gift we can offer others is our presence. When mindfulness embraces those we love, they will bloom like flowers. The most precious gift we can offer to others is our presence. When mindfulness embraces those we love, they will bloom like flowers. Okay, my friends, let's bring awareness back to the entirety of the body. And you'll wiggle your fingers and your toes. And you'll roll your head side to side, maybe. And when you're ready, then go ahead and take your knees to your chest. Good. Go ahead and come over to one side. Good. And just take a moment to pause on your side before you come up to sit. Good. Excellent. So let's just sit for a moment or two and take a couple deep breaths. Okay, let's take a big inhale together. We're going to inhale, reach the arms up overhead. As you exhale, bring your hands down to your heart. We'll close this portion of our practice with a chant of Om. Take a full deep inhale. Om.